My name is Samuel Atiku. I work with the International Budget Partnership. So generally what I do is, number one, we do research, we do public policy analysis, and then by extension, we typically do mobilizing. Essentially, what we're working towards is ensuring that service delivery challenges are solved, and then we do that by looking closely at the fiscal policies of government and then monetary policy to a lesser extent. Yes, I mean, rightfully so. The management of the central bank under Emefiele, under the present governor, has been abysmal. I mean, just to use the word lightly and loosely, it's been abysmal. The primary role of the central bank is to ensure that prices are stable and the currency is stable. And how do you manage price? Prices, well, when you say inflation, inflation is a monetary phenomenon. Inflation is strongly a monetary phenomenon. Inflation is not caused by bad roads. I've had people hypothetically try to describe that, oh, inflation in Nigeria is cost push, all those arguments. Statistically, the problem we are having in Nigeria is a substance of having too many money in circulation in the hands of few people running after very few goods. That's essentially what is creating the inflation we have. Now, just to clarify it, Lagos-Ibadan Expressway did not just become bad today. It's not been okay 5 years ago. If you look at Benin Road, maybe they've tried patching up things. The road network is not as perfect as it should be last year, and then it suddenly got damaged this year. Price, inflation is a measure of what price. So if I'm buying a bottle water last year, for let's say 3 years ago, I bought one bottle water for say 100 Naira. And the last year, it is 110. In measuring the increase in price, that's a 10% increase in price. That is defined as inflation. The consistent, now, that's just an inflation number, right? This year, it has gone from 110 to, let's say, 120. Then you compute it and then you compare, it changes the rate at which price is changing. That's what we do as inflation. So, contextually, it's important to say that the bad roads could have add more cost to the price of goods and services, but it doesn't mean that it's the primary cause why goods and services seems to be going up. It's a substance of the volume of Naira running after limited goods. And one of the goods that it's running after, especially in Nigeria, is even foreign exchange. So what we've had is that the Central Bank of Nigeria has been printing money. And when it prints money, remember I did make an hypothetical description of that 1,000 Naira that I deposit in the bank. That 1,000 Naira, now imagine the Central Bank of Nigeria automatically creates, instead of letting the systems of the economy work its way into depositing money in the bank, the Central Bank of Nigeria automatically just create 10,000 Naira and dump it in the bank. The incentive for the bank to come to me or to create more debt and all those things is not there. So the moment you dump it there, the banks can automatically begin to borrow people money. And when you borrow people money, what are they using the money to do? They are using the money to go and buy PMS, import it into the country. What are they using it to do? To import goods into the country, meaning that it's running after limited foreign exchange. And that's what is triggering, creating the crisis that we have. Remember, you cannot use the artificial record to buy dollars. The 1,000 Naira that I have, that I'm holding around in my phone, I cannot use it to go and buy dollars at the central bank. I have to go to the base money. If I tell my bank to buy $1,000 from, let's say, buy $1 from a bank, from the central bank, the bank will have to go to that 1,000 Naira deposit and swap it for dollars. So the transactions for foreign exchange happen at the back end, not the front end of transaction. So where I'm going is that the Central Bank of Nigeria had not managed monetary policy effectively. It has also dabbled into other things of no significance to its mandate. The mandate of the central bank is to ensure that price is stable and the currency is stable. The central bank had left that part of its work and focused on other things. You see the Central Bank of Nigeria banning importation of goods, making unnecessary, cutting trees in Abuja, right? Those are very, very strange that a central bank will be doing that. In fact, it's unheard of in history of central bank or fractional reserve banking. So my take is that, yes, the Central Bank of Nigeria has been had managed the economy poorly. And that's why the working poor and have-nots are actually paying dearly. I mean, it is strange to assume that in a country like Nigeria, the cost of electricity, if you want to power your electricity, people are paying almost 15,000 just to buy it. Remember, people are paying 30,000 for electricity bill. The minimum wage is 30,000. That shows clearly how inflation, when you say, oh, electricity price has gone up, it's a substance of inflation. Remember, if you go back memory lane, $1 used to be maybe 200 Naira. So the cost of gas and all those things are also associated with the cost of electricity. Because we have lost track of what we are doing, the price of goods and services, the price of food item, non-food item had gone up, has escalated, and then everything seems to be falling apart. So the question you are asking that, what would this do? This is just, I'll call it just an operational adjustment. What the central bank is simply doing is just taking out some base money and replacing it with another. It has no economic implication as far as I'm concerned. Now, what the central bank can now do may be to reduce operational costs for banks, which will increase the profit of banks, or reduce operational costs for the central bank, is actually maybe to force people, when you take out about 3 trillion Naira cash that is in circulation, you suck it in, then you replace it with, let's say, 1 trillion, and force people to begin to use electronic transaction. That has no effect on the economy as it were. The only difference is that it makes the operational cost, the cost of operation moving cash around for banks to be lower. And that means they make more profit. So it's a profit, they make the banks more profitable. The second thing is that it reduces the operational cost of the central bank, the cost of printing money, moving the money from Lagos or from Abuja, depending on where they are printing it. If the minting and printing comes in Abuja, moving it from here maybe to the extreme end of the country, those operational costs reduces. And those are just the whole context itself. But in terms of the overall macroeconomic framework that's underpinning the economy, I don't think there's any significant shifts that we'll see, that we are going to see. I think the first thing that you'll see is that we are moving into an election year, right? February is the election. And we all understand that politicians have always been sitting down and strategizing on how to buy votes. Now, unfortunately for them, the logistic cost of moving cash to all their base, they have to, so most of the cash that they want to use for vote buying had already moved to all the base. They are just waiting to distribute the money. Now they have to take the money back to the banks or maybe to the bureau de change. And when they take it back to the bank or the bureau de change to buy dollars, by the time the election is closed, they have to swap that dollar because you can't be sharing $100. Nigerian politicians don't value Nigerians to the extent of giving them $100 to buy their votes. They will most likely give 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 10,000 naira. $100 notes. $100 note is almost 100,000 naira. No, they're not going to give this. Those ones are for delegates. But for the Nigerians that are suffering, that are hungry on the streets, they will give them 2,000, 3,000 to buy their votes. So the challenge now is that they have to swap the dollar back to Naira after the whole storm, meaning that, yeah, the Naira could regain some of the lost value. That's what we see. It may be wrong, but that's what we see, that the Naira will regain some of the value because of the urge to quickly push out the dollars. And in that sense, they will acquire cash and then they begin to redistribute it again for by election buying. So that in terms of operations, that's the political economic dimension that we already foresee that will happen. Now it's left for the central bank, the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, the AFCC, and the Nigerian police to actually look at this and try to stop those things in the body. It's important to look at it. I think that's the first thing that will happen. The second thing that it's important to mention quickly is the fact that towards December, yes, the central bank beginning to fan up sentiment around the e-Naira again. There's a need to actually e-Naira to actually ensure that the over 3 trillion that they are envisaging to swap, they will not swap everything for cash for cash. They will use electronic for cash also, so that to reduce their operational cost. And that also have implication. It means that, of course, if for instance, e-Naira proliferates in Nigeria, that's a big game changer in terms of how we approach banking. Remember, We now have an electronic version of the cash, meaning that even the incentive to even open bank account is there. It's not there. That's another thing that I'm seeing. I'm just looking at, again, those are generic things to think about. Then it's important to also mention clearly that illicit funds flow, right? Funding Boko Haram, funding ISWAP, funding all these bandits and all those is the ammunition for recruiting also. They need to begin to rebuild it again after this whole cycle. So the question is that what is the Nigerian army going to do? What are the intelligence agencies going to do to ensure that they catch all these people? I mean, they get them before it goes out or things spiral out of control. Now, that's on the those are on the operational side. In terms of the economic dynamism, yeah, what we foresee is that before December, the Naira will continue to lose its value. But the moment the Naira becomes infiltrated in the system, we have enough cash, understanding Nigerian politicians and then the corrupt ones, the Nigerian politicians, they're always looking to get the cash back and return it back into their ICO. And so the implication means that, yes, the demand for cash at the bank will intensify and increase. And then what we envisage is that most of the ATMs, you have these long queues and all those kind of things. Again, we envisage, we hope it doesn't get to that, that the central bank will already set up mechanism to ensure it doesn't get to there, but we envisage that already. Meaning that the Naira becomes scarce. And if the Naira becomes scarce in the economy, of course, there will be to rub off on its value to other currency and the value. So to a degree, to a particular degree, we envisage that, yeah, the Naira could regain some of its lost value. But as at now, we are not sure how much value the Naira will lose against other foreign exchange. I think those are just the building block of what we project going into next year, the first quarter of next year. We covered everything, especially when it comes to this Naira swap thing that is happening. But my own take is that the big question is that why is it happening now when you have election? So the question is that why not wait till after the election before you do this? I think that raises a whole lot of political economic questions. There is this agenda set up to actually distort, by the ruling party to distort the opposition from accumulating enough cash to compete against them. Is that the reason? Because why are you setting a very significant economic policy shift very close to an election? Why not after the election when the whole pressure is off? So that's just about my biggest fear also. That, yeah, I think this also may have some political undertone that is driving this policy. But we hope it's not.